Hey all, Michelle Raza here with Finding Yourself SATX Life Coaching, where since 2017 we've helped our clients reach their goals by setting personal vision statements, which then become your goals, creating achievable weekly goals, and most importantly, meeting with your coach often enough to hold you accountable. We're actually having our spring break special right now. All of our digital content is 50% off. If you want to check out our site, it's at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There in the shop section, you can see all of the content that's on discount. You can also book your first free consult there as well. It's like purchasing, but it's a $0 purchase. So hope to talk to you soon. Today we're going to talk about Melody Beattie's Codependent No More. We've been trying to define what codependency is. I think she has a great definition in her book, which I'll read over here. And then today we're going to talk about Alissa's story. So each of the stories that we've gone over is just a little bit different versions of codependency. So that hopefully as you're watching these, if you suspect that you or someone in your life is codependent, one of these stories will kind of resonate with you. And that way you can start seeing, oh, yeah, like I have these qualities, right? And then the next steps and what we'll cover next week starting is, okay, so I'm codependent or I have a friend who's codependent. What the hell do you do? Like how do we get out of this thing, right? That's what we're going to start covering next. And she starts by talking about detachment. And just like meditation and mindfulness, it's one of those topics that you can conceptualize pretty quickly. I'd say, within 5 minutes you can theoretically understand what this thing is. But then there's people who spend an entire lifetime practicing detachment because it's very difficult. Easy in concept, difficult in practice, like most things. Okay, so Melody's definition of a codependent. A codependent person is one who has let another person's behavior affect him or her and who is obsessed with controlling that person's behavior. A codependent person is one who has let another person's behavior affect him or her and who is obsessed with controlling that person's behavior. This is from page 34 of her book. And then the story that we'll cover today is on page 23. Alissa. Alcoholism or chemical dependency is not the only family problem that can create a codependent person. Alissa, the mother of 2 teenagers, worked part-time at a mental health organization when she went to a family counselor. She had previously gone to many family counselors in her search for help. She went to counseling because her oldest child, a 14-year-old boy, was constantly causing problems. He ran away, broke curfew, skipped school, disobeyed other family rules, and generally did whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. This child, Alissa told the counselor, is driving me crazy. She meant it. She was worried sick. Some days she was so depressed and troubled she couldn't get out of bed. Alissa had tried everything she could think of to help this child. She'd placed him in treatment 3 times, put him in 2 different foster homes, dragged the whole family from counselor to counselor. Alissa had tried other techniques too. She had threatened, cried, hollered, and begged. She had gotten tough and called the police on him. She had tried gentleness and forgiveness. She even tried acting like he hadn't done the inappropriate things he had done. She had locked him out, and she had traveled halfway across the state to bring him home after he ran away. Although her efforts hadn't helped her child, Alissa was obsessed with finding and doing the one thing that would make him see the errors of his ways and change. Why, she asked the counselor, why is he doing this to me? He's running and ruining my life. The counselor agreed the problem with Alissa's son was painful, upsetting, and required action. But the counselor also said that the problem didn't have to run and ruin Alissa's life. You haven't been able to control your son. But you can gain control of yourself, he said. You can deal with your own codependency. Okay, so just given the time, I think I can go over Sheryl's story instead of pushing that to Thursday, and then we will be done defining what codependency is. Well, done with the examples that Melody gives in her book anyway. Sheryl. Sheryl also labels herself codependent. Shortly after marrying the man of her dreams, she found herself in a nightmare. Her husband, she learned, was a sex addict. In his case, that meant he couldn't control his urges to indulge in pornography. He was compulsively drawn into affairs with other women, and, as Sheryl put it, God only knows what and who else. She learned her husband was a sex addict 1 week after their wedding, when she discovered him in bed with another woman. Sheryl's first response was panic. Then she got angry. Then she felt concern for her husband and his problem. Her friends advised her to leave him, but she decided to stay in the marriage. He needed help. He needed her. Maybe he would change. Besides, she wasn't ready to lose her dream of that rosy future they would have together. Her husband joined Sex Addicts Anonymous, a 12-step self-help group similar to Alcoholics Anonymous. Sheryl refused to join COSA, similar to Al-Anon, for family members of sex addicts. She didn't want to go public with her problem. She didn't even want to discuss it privately. Over a period of months, Sheryl, a successful fashion model, found herself accepting fewer work assignments, turning down evenings out with friends, and sticking closer to home. She wanted to answer the telephone in case women called for her husband. She wanted to be home, to see her husband when he left the house and returned. She wanted to see what he looked like, how he acted, and how he talked. She wanted to know exactly what he was doing and with whom he was doing it. She often called his SA sponsor to complain, to report, and to inquire about her husband's progress. She refused, she said, to be tricked and deceived again. Gradually, she alienated herself from her friends and activities. She was too worried to work. She was too ashamed to talk to her friends. Her husband had several more affairs. Her friends were frustrated with her for staying with him and constantly whining about how terrible it was to be his wife. I couldn't stand the sight of my husband. I had nothing but contempt for him. Yet I couldn't bring myself to leave him, Sheryl reported later. I couldn't make myself do much of anything except worry and check up on him. My turning point was the night I chased him with a butcher knife, Sheryl said. It was my lowest point. I was running through the house screaming and raving, when suddenly I became aware for the first time of me. I had gone mad. I was crazy, completely out of control, and he just stood there, calmly looking at me. I knew then I had to do something to get help for me. Sheryl joined COSA shortly after that incident. It was at those meetings that she began to label herself and her loss of control as codependency. Sheryl is now separated from her husband and seeking a divorce. She is also feeling better about herself. Although the preceding examples have been dramatic, codependency doesn't necessarily have to be so intense, and it doesn't always involve experiences with deeply troubled people. Kristen is married, has 2 young children, and knows of no alcoholism or compulsive disorders in her immediate or extended family. Yet she calls herself codependent. Her problem, she says, is that other people's moods control her emotions. She, in turn, tries to control her feelings. If my husband is happy and I feel responsible for that, then I'm happy. If he's upset, I feel responsible for that too. I'm anxious, uncomfortable, and upset until he gets better. I try to make him feel better. I feel guilty if I can't, and he gets angry with me for trying. And it's not only with him that I behave codependently, she added. It's with everyone. My parents, my children, guests in my home. Somehow I just seem to lose myself in other people. I get enmeshed in them. I'd like to do something about it, this thing called codependency, before it gets any worse. I'm not terribly unhappy, she said, but I'd like to learn how to relax and start enjoying myself and other people. A minister summarized the condition this way. Some people are really codependent, and some of us are a little bit codependent. Okay, so the majority of this time, the past, I think, 3 or 4 videos, give me one second. The past 3 or 4 videos, we've gone over a few stories. Gerald's story, Gerard's story, Marlis, Alissa, all of these stories. So at the end of this chapter, which is chapter 3, there's an activity. So I'll just read over the activity. We'll close out with this, and next time we'll move on to the concept of detachment. Activity. Did you identify with any people in this chapter? This chapter being all of the stories that I've covered, I think, in the past 3 or 4 videos. What helped you think of yourselves? What helped you think of yourself? What relationships did it bring to mind? Why? So basically, who are you seeing? What story resonates with you? Which one is you and why? 2, you might find it, so I guess this is more of a tip than the activity. You might find it helpful to buy a large notebook and record your responses to these activities. You can also write down other thoughts and feelings you have as you read this book. So kind of like we did for Dr. Gibson's works, journaling is always really effective. I just found this app. So again, backtrack, I'm not ever paid for anything I recommend. But I did just find this app called Finch. It's very cute, and it's free. I think there's in-app purchases, but it's free. And so you have this little character that you grow. The more you do your own self-care, you grow your character. I think mine moved from a baby to a toddler, and then I got distracted with something else, and so I haven't been as good at it. But it's a cute little app, and it kind of reminds you to journal and reflect. So I think it's really good, that journaling piece, whether you do it on a piece of paper or electronically or somehow, as you're watching these videos, as you're studying, anything else, either on YouTube or elsewhere, it's good to just be able to reflect for yourself. So yeah, thanks for spending time with me today. Don't forget about our spring break special. So normally our digital content are guided life balance questionnaires where you can start building your personal vision statement. Normally they're at $19.99. They've been slashed to $9.99 right now. So go out and buy them. And then I also did discount the group package. So I think that's down to $50 as opposed to $100 for the entire thing. And that was already a $40 saving. So go on my site, check it out, buy some content, and then book your first free consult with me. Y'all have a great week. I'll talk to you again on Thursday. Bye-bye.